This video has been brought to you by DataVinci Analytics Agency. In this video, we are going to learn how to track form submissions in Google Tag Manager. Again, this is a very simple concept. So what are we going to learn? We are going to learn how to track HTML5 forms, which is most easiest to do with Google Tag Manager. Then how to track forms using element visibility trigger, how to track form submissions using data layers, and how to fire marketing or analytics pixels on submission confirmation pages. Alright, so let's get cracking, boys and girls. Before moving further, I would like to invite you to join our group, the Digital Optimization League by DataVinci. Here's the URL, DataVinci DOA. So just come to this page, click on join group, and I will approve your request. It's a free group and we cover various things on digital analytics like updates, tag management ideas, data visualization, or advanced analytics on digital analytics data. Alright, so looking forward to see you there. Alright, so let's start with the first one, that is tracking form submissions on HTML5 based forms. What do I mean by that? Okay, so there can be different kinds of forms which can be there on your website depending on what you are using for form submission, right? It can be also sometimes that you are using certain tools on your website to collect the data based on the form submissions, or you are using certain plugins, etc. Alright, so the by default form submission trigger that exists in Google Tag Manager. So if you go over here, you click on new, you click on trigger configuration, you click on form submission. So this one, right, so this one does not work on all kinds of form submissions, right? So this works only on the HTML5 based form submissions. So to validate whether this trigger would work for you or not, what you can do is that you can go to your site. So I am on a page on DataVinci where I know there is a form. So let's do a form submission and see whether Google Tag Manager would detect that or not. Alright, so let's make a submission. And do a submission. Okay, so voila, here you can see that the form submit trigger is working. Okay, so just in case that this kind of form submission thing works for you, right? So it's very easy to track the form submission. You can look for the event that resulted in form submission, and then you can check for the variables. So then you can check for like things like page path or page URL. So if you want to further refine this, right, so what you can do is that you can go to Google Tag Manager and locate the form submission event, and then here instead of all forms you can click on some forms and choose any of the variables to further filter or refine the firing of this particular trigger. So here like you can choose page path or page URL or any other thing that is getting passed as variables. You can also look in the data layer. So when this form submit event is happening, what are the other things that are getting fired, right? So based on this thing as well, you can create certain variables, and based on those variables you can create filters around your trigger. Okay, so the next thing that I told over here was tracking the forms using element visibility. So let's assume that this form submission trigger does not work for you. So this form submit that came, the HTML5 form submit or the by default form submission trigger that exists in Google Tag Manager, let's assume that it does not work for you. Okay, at times it can happen that post a form submission you would be taken to a different page URL. At time it might happen that you will get a confirmation on the same page. So like in this case we are getting a confirmation sensational, right, on the same page. So in this case what we can do, we can use the element visibility trigger. So how do you do that? It's very simple. I have made an entire detailed video on element visibility as well. So if you want to get in too much detail, you can refer to that one. I'll put the link in the description box below. But for now, coming back to this one, just inspect this. Okay, and here we can locate the element, right? So we can see that this particular element would exist only when the form submission happens. So we can copy, and we can copy selector. Okay, now we can go back to Google Tag Manager. Let's modify this one only. We can select element visibility. Here we have to choose CSS selector and paste the CSS selector that we found over there. And you can choose whether once per page, once per element, or every time. I'm just choosing once per page. minimum percent by default 50 is fine, right? I will set it as observe DOM changes because this element is not always existing. It is appearing only after the form submission, so the DOM is changing. So I want Google Tag Manager to observe for the DOM changes, right? I am not setting a minimum on-screen duration as such over here, and I will make it as visibility on all pages, right? I'll just rename it, okay? And let's set a trigger also over here. Let's set a tag also over here. For the tag, I do not want to set the Google Analytics. I would rather want to set a Facebook tag. Facebook form submission. Okay. And to set Facebook form submission, we have to use custom HTML because default does not exist. Default tag extension does not exist for Facebook in Google Tag Manager yet, right? So this is the code for Facebook. I'll just name it form submission, right? And I will choose the trigger as the one that we created was sensational. Save it, refresh, go back to the site again, refresh. Okay, so I'll again make a submission. And as you can see, that element visibility fired over here, and the Facebook submission tag also fired. So there is a different element visibility. Maybe in the past also I have set a trigger, but this one is particular to the trigger that we had said that was dependent on the element visibility, and it is in a way tracking form submission. So you can use this trigger and send the data to analytics or other marketing platforms, right? So let's see whether the data came to Facebook or not. So I'm making the submission again, and sensational came, and we have our custom event form submission, right? So this is what we had set in Google Tag Manager. And this is consistent with what's firing over here. Okay, so that's the second method to track a form in Google Tag Manager. What's the third method? Let's say that element visibility is not working, and the HTML5 based form is also not there. So in that case, what you can do? In that case, you can pass certain things in the data layer. Okay, so you will need to work with your developer, right? And ask the developer that when the form submission happens, then send something to the data layer that I can pick. Okay, in general, the structure of the data layer that a developer needs to set would be something like this. So when you're sending instructions to the developer, so basically it's going to be a script tag only, and you need to tell the developer that they need to do a data layer.push every time a form is submitted. Okay, the event is important because this you can pick to detect a form submission, and then you can add additional fields like form name or form location or anything that you want to put. Okay, now the beauty is that we can test this right now as well without actually passing this in the form and asking the developer. So I can just copy this code. All right, so I'll just copy this code, go to the site and go to my developer console. Okay, and just paste this code. Now what you will see is that okay, now here, as you can notice that when I typed this code, the form submit came. This is happening because I passed the event as form submit. So just to show you again, I can make it, see, form submit again came. Alright, so based on this event, I can create a custom event in Google Tag Manager, and based on that I can fire my tags for form submission. All right, so I can go back to Google Tag Manager, and instead of right now, so this is a tag anyway, sorry. So here I can go back to triggers and a new trigger, and I can choose custom event. Okay, now I can set the name of the custom event that I'm passing to the developer. So here let me choose form submit again. Needs to be case sensitive. Okay, right, and just make it test form submit and save it. And if I go back to my tags and the tag that we just created, that was Facebook form submission, I can set that tag to fire on the custom event. I'll go back. Now to demonstrate this one, we actually do not need to submit the tag because it's dependent on the custom event, and we just need to pass that event. So that event was DataLayer.push. Here, as you can see, I'm again typing that in the console, and if I do this, form submit again comes, right, and you will also be able to see that the Facebook conversion would have happened. That is a form submission. Okay, here also you would get to see that the trigger associated with form submission, the tag associated with the form submission again trigger is Facebook's form submission, which we mapped to the particular trigger. Okay, so these are the three ways. The first one was a simple HTML5 based form submission. The second one was based on element visibility, and the third one was based on form submit again, that is kind of pushing it to DataLayer. So for this you need to be able to push the event to DataLayer or ask your developer to do that, such that every time a form submission happens, the developer is able to set an event associated with that, and then you can map the same event in a custom event based trigger and fire your forms. All right, now I also mentioned that how we can set analytics and marketing pixels based on the form submission confirmation page if it exists, right? So on DataVinci's side, the form submission confirmation, it is there on this page, right? So let's assume that you also have a similar URL, such that when the user submits a form, then you are taken to this URL, or the user is taken to this URL. So again, it's a very simple exercise that how you can create your tags for analytics and marketing for this particular URL. So for this, you just need to go to your tags, right? And let's take this time Google Analytics. Okay, so I'll take Google Analytics, right? And I will take an event, right? And I will say it is booking confirmation. I'm just keeping very general stuff over here. I'm not giving a lot of thought into how data should be put, so I'm putting it randomly over here. Okay, so I'll just put over here that appointment scheduled. Let's leave label and value blank right now. Okay, is it a non-interaction hit? No, it is an interaction hit, so it will be true. So there's a small correction over here, as you just heard that I said that this is not a non-interaction hit, but I accidentally set it as true. It should rather be false. All right, so here's a mistake on my part, but please note that this interaction actually needs to be set as false for non-interaction. All right, so let's continue with the video. Okay, the variable, Google Analytics settings variable, right, and I'll just name it all right, so here we are assuming that the user has submitted a form and they have reached a certain page, which is the booking confirmation page. All right, booking page. Now here we can set it on a page view, right? And all pages? No, some pages. Which page? The page where the page URL contains this thing. Okay, let's just save it and refresh this. Go to the site. I'll this time open Omnibug, which will tell us the analytics calls, and I expect to see an event, right? And the event is here, and as you can see that it contains appointment scheduled and booking confirmation, right? So using this logic, you can fire any of your marketing pixels or analytics pixels. If you want to create a goal based on this, then you can create an event based goal, right? And set this event for your goals, the value in these events, right? Alright, so what have we covered? We have covered how to track forms which are based on HTML5 forms, right? We covered how to track forms using element visibility. We covered how to track forms using DataLayer. We also covered how to fire marketing or analytics pixels on submission confirmation page. Alright. Now, just to keep in mind that in case none of these things are working for you, just validate that the form that you have on your website is not an iframe. So what is an iframe? Iframe is a reference to another site that is hosted on your site. So it appears that that iframe is part of the same website or the web page, but actually that's a different website. So if you want to enable tracking on an iframe, so you need to install Google Analytics tracking on the website from which you are getting the iframe, and it will not work if you put the analytics implementation on your web page, right? So just keep that in mind. Other than that, I feel that whatever we have covered so far in this video should be good enough to cover 90 to 95% of your cases regarding form submission tracking. In any case, if you have any doubts, just put those doubts in the comment section below and I will address those. Hope this video was worthy of your time. Till then, take care. Bye.